Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, welcome to everybody. Good evening.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Om Jnana-tapasā jñāna-tapasā chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Welcome to everybody on this Gita Wisdom session on Sunday evening. Thank you for joining together, all of you who are on YouTube, on Facebook, and other areas on social media. Thank you for joining in here on this auspicious month of Purushottama Adhika Masa, where we are going to spend some time delving into the Bhagavad-gita. Today's Gita Wisdom selection is from chapter 4. If you've got the Gita in front of you, reference in front of you, chapter 4, verse 10. Again, chapter 4, verse 10. Vīta-rāga-bhaya-krodhā man-mayā upāśritāḥ bahavo jñāna-tapasā pūtā mad-bhāvam āgatāḥ. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki. Okay? One minute. Oops. Yeah. Translation: being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me, and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. Purport: as described above, it is very difficult for a person who is too materially affected to understand the personal nature of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Generally, people who are attached to the bodily conception of life are so absorbed in materialism that it is almost impossible for them to understand how the Supreme can be a person. Such materialists cannot even imagine that there is a transcendental body which is imperishable, full of knowledge, and eternally blissful. In the materialistic concept, the body is perishable, full of ignorance, and completely miserable. Therefore, people in general keep the same bodily idea in mind when they are informed of the personal form of the Lord. For such materialistic men, the form of the gigantic material manifestation is supreme. Consequently, they consider the Supreme to be impersonal. And because they are too materially absorbed, the conception of retaining the personality after liberation from matter frightens them. When they are informed that spiritual life is also individual and personal, they become afraid of becoming persons again. And so they naturally prefer a kind of merging into the impersonal void. Generally, they compare the living entities to the bubbles of the ocean, which merge into the ocean. That is the highest perfection of spiritual existence attainable without individual personality. This is a kind of fearful stage of life, devoid of perfect knowledge of spiritual existence. Furthermore, there are many persons who cannot understand spiritual existence at all, Being embarrassed by so many theories and by contradictions of various types of philosophical speculation, they become disgusted or angry and foolishly conclude that there is no supreme cause and that everything is ultimately void. Such people are in a diseased condition of life. Some people are too materially attached and therefore do not give attention to spiritual life. Some of them want to merge into the supreme spiritual cause, and some of them disbelieve in everything, being angry at all sorts of spiritual speculation out of hopelessness. This last class of men take to the shelter of some kind of intoxication, and their affective hallucinations are sometimes accepted as spiritual vision. One has to get rid of all these three stages of attachment to the material world: negligence of spiritual life, fear of a spiritual personal identity, and the conception of void that arises from frustration in life. To get free from these three stages of the material concept of life, one has to take complete shelter of the Lord, guided by the bona fide spiritual master, and follow the disciplines of and regulatory principles of devotional life. The last stage of the devotional life is called bhava, or transcendental love of Godhead. According to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the science of devotional service, Ādhau Shraddha Tatasādhu Sango Ata Bhajana Kriya Tato Anartha Nivritihi Syat Tato Nishtha Ruchistataha Ata Shaktis Tato Bhavas Tata Prema Vyudanchati Sadhakanam Ayam Premnaha Pradhurbhave Bhavetkrama. In the beginning, one must have a preliminary desire for self-realization. This will bring one to the stage of trying to associate with persons who are spiritually elevated. In the next stage, one becomes initiated by an elevated spiritual master, and under his instruction, the neophyte devotee begins the process of devotional service. By execution of devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master, one becomes free from all material attachment, attains steadiness and self-realization, and acquires a taste for hearing about the absolute personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. This taste leads one further toward to attachment for Krishna consciousness, which is matured in bhava, or the preliminary stage of transcendental love of God. Real love of God is called prema, the transcendental perfectional stage of life. In the prema stage, there is constant engagement in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So by the slow process of devotional service under the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master, one can attain the highest stage, being freed from all material attachment, from the fearfulness of one's individual spiritual personality, and from the frustrations that result in void philosophy. Then one can ultimately attain to the abode of the Supreme Lord. Om Tat Sat. Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurummilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much for assembling here today. And this is a wonderful shloka for today. Vīta-rāga-bhaya-krodhā, man-mayā mam upāśritāḥ, bahavo jñāna-tapasā, pūtā mad-bhāvam āgatāḥ. So, raga means attachment, bhaya means fear, krodha means anger, right? So these are vīta-rāga-bhaya-krodhā. These are being explained here. And Krishna is guaranteeing that in the past, many people have done this. Bahavo jñāna-tapasā, pūtā mad-bhāvam āgatāḥ. And they have attained love for me. right? So Krishna is saying, this is not something new. This is not a startup that I am explaining to you, and it has not been done before or something. This is a very old knowledge. He says earlier in the 4th chapter, Krishna says that yogaḥ proktaḥ purātanaḥ bhakto sime sakhā ceti evam man-mayā te adya yogaḥ proktaḥ purātanaḥ. This is a very old science. And so many people have understood this science and achieved the success that comes out of following this. So it's not that you are the first person and it is a startup or something new and I'm trying it out with you, you're the guinea pig. No. It's been done before. It's eternal. It's absolute. It's truth. It's a reality. And everybody can do it. Vīta-rāga-bhaya-krodhā man-mayā. What is the condition? Vīta-rāga-bhaya-krodhā man-mayā mam upāśritāḥ. Upāśritāḥ. Ashritaḥ means taking shelter. Mam upasritah, take shelter of me. That is the way to become successful. It's not that you can on your own speculate and take shelter of your mind. Take shelter of your speculations. Take shelter of somebody else who is interpreting things in a strange way. Right? You can't take shelter of anything but taking shelter of Krishna's words as it is. And who will be able to explain this to you? Prabhupada is explaining the purport. Therefore, it's not so easy to just read the Gita and interpret it yourself and have your own idea and understanding. That's very popular. Everybody wants to write their own Gita. Means they want to speculate and write their own things. But if you're really interested in achieving the goal that Gita is pointing to, then you must follow that simple procedure of accepting a bona fide spiritual master, a bona fide guru coming in the proper school, coming in the proper parampara. Why? You need a school, you need a university, you need a college. And these colleges are not between four walls, which has proved to be a failure now anyway. It's not about limitations, boundaries. It's not about doing a business with education. It's about actually proving to the person, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. The person experiences self-realization. He can feel it just as much as he feels that he is existing by virtue of consciousness. He knows his presence. He knows his existential reality. He knows the pulse of it inside. I exist, like the famous René Descartes, rationalist. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. He had some basic intelligence put into it. He said, you see, the only thing that's a constant and a reality is I, me. All right? Cogito, cognizance. I am alive and kicking, consciously existing, feeling, willing, thinking, all this is going on. Therefore, I am a constant reality that I know I exist, right? So starting from there onwards, a person knows for sure that he can expand himself further. So don't think that this does not require a university and a science. There is a science. And it's explained in the end of the purport, ādau shraddha tata sadhu sangha adha bhajana kriya. What are the different landmarks as you progress that you will be able to see, experience, feel? So this is a process by which you can actually see, yes, I'm moving ahead. I can see it. You don't have to convince others, and you may not be able to convince others. But it is an experience that you will have. You'll be moved up. Right from ādau shraddha. In the beginning, ādi. In the beginning, ādau. Shraddha means a little faith. You start with a little faith in the Bhagavad-gita. You start a little faith because you heard Maharaj speaking in the so-and-so 18 sessions and you feel that, wow, this is worth it. I got some faith in it. So if somebody Krishna sends to you and then implants faith. Faith is very, very central. And faith is very important for making a start. Not the faith in the way that people say today faith means is connected very much with religion. If you see the definition of religion in the dictionary, they will speak about a faith in a particular certain codes, certain, edicts, certain, something religious scripture or whatever. You have faith. They brought down faith to something very small because they say we are all faith-based organizations and we guys are reason-based, intellectual-based, questioning-based. Like Rene Descartes, I have the power to actually think and therefore I must utilize it to understand. There is a limitation to how much you can think on your own because there is something called speculation that you'll go into. And all speculations are not at all true. So therefore you must accept a person who knows. And that is mentioned by Krishna in the 4th chapter. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. You must accept a person who's a tattvadarshi, who has seen the truth. Through the eyes of the Shastra. Shastra chakshu. Chakshu means eyes. Right? So you need that. And plus you need that simple little intelligence also. It's not a dumb thing that only consciousness and some guru will do. You have to exercise your intelligence. In other words, consciously you will exercise all your faculties and examine it and understand it, perform, get the knowledge and then perform, apply it. And then at the end you get the fruit of it. It's a process. It's called the process of knowledge. It works. It starts with a little faith and in the end it gives you the highest benefit, prema, love of God. Love of God. So it's, like I said, an experience from the beginning till the end. And you are guided both from inside, the Paramatma is guiding you, Krishna himself, and from outside, he has appeared again as the external spiritual master. One is called the Antaryami, who is inside you, super soul, which Krishna explains. I am inside everybody. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hrideshu arjuna tishtati. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto mattah smritirjnanam apohanam cha. So we put some faith in it. These are words. True. And we put some faith in it. And then our process starts. It's not that, others don't have faith. Even cogito ergo sum, I think I'm using you're putting faith in your own faculty. You're putting faith in your capacity to be able to think. And you're thinking that you'll be able to think about this amazing amount of information all by your own. No, you need aids. You need the scripture. You need the guru. You need practicing people. You need a whole college of people whom you can study with and see others doing it, believing in it, practicing it, and passing examinations in life by applying it. Therefore, you get confidence. And that adau shadda tata sadhu sangha means in the association of such people who are also practicing. So it's a college. It's an education institution. Others are also practicing. Tatasa, ata bhajana kriya. Along with them, you perform the actual practicals of it. Anartha nivriti, and then you will see that it's happening to you. You're losing interest in certain materialistic things. You're developing spiritually. You're gaining knowledge. You're debating points. You're deliberating on points. And you're discussing it with others and their point of view. And gradually you're growing in your conviction. The faith has become a conviction, and the conviction has become something deeper. And it is helping you to get away from bad habits and wrong lifestyles. Anartha nivriti. Anartha nivriti. Nivriti means getting rid of. Artha means what is valuable to you. Anartha means not valuable to you. Actually not important to you. You're smoking, you're drinking, you're addiction to certain types of things are really anarthas. They don't, they're not needed, and you also know them, but you're helplessly, hardwired, addicted to them. So when you awaken your understanding and knowledge of how this is working, then you will see your habits can be fought off. Because you're fighting with the sword of knowledge. Chindanti kovidastasya kona kuryat kataratim. Chindanti, cutting. Kovidastasya. Kovida means intelligent person who has got knowledge, who has studied under Guru and has become capable of using that knowledge. And then he cuts all these habits, all these attachments with the sword of absolute knowledge. Only then you can do, not with ordinary knowledge. You cannot use material knowledge and try to cut your attachments. They only increase. So you can actually do that, and gradually you will see your faith has turned into a deep conviction, a deep belief, and it has become your worldview. It's become your view of yourself and also the worldview you have. And you see the world in a very different way. You see all spirit souls. You see all of them entangled in the material world like you. And then you can see the Supreme Lord, the liberating factor. And you can see how he is completely differentiated from all these things. Gradually, this is the meaning of a Tattvadarshi. Through knowledge you can see. Shrutekshita pataha. Shruta means to hear. Ikshita means eyes. The path that we follow is we hear from bona fide gurus, teachers, and then we can see through what they put through our ears. Shruta. That's why the Vedic literature is called Shruti. Because this Shastra Chakshuhu means after hearing it comes and you can see the world through the eyes of the Shastra. Then you see very different. That's what Krishna is saying. This knowledge will help you see the world in the actual way, in the realistic way, in the way it is. But if you don't take this knowledge, you will be under illusion. You will be seeing it in a particular way, illusioned by the three modes of nature. And that is not the way the reality is. The reality is not what you're seeing, you're perceiving. Your perceptions of the reality is what you take inside through your senses and the interpretation of your mind. So most of the time in this world, all of us are telling stories to ourselves through our mind under the force of material nature based on what we see, what we hear, what we taste, what we observe. And so we get conditioned according to material nature, and our experience of the reality is really not there. So we perceive. So you can't understand the truth like that. So if you go and read Bhagavad-gita on your own, it's quite possible you'll click some of those things. But after some time, you'll start perceiving things on your own, speculating, and you get cheated. And then you'll arrive at some other conclusion. Okay? For that you have to be careful. All these things can be checked. So vīta-rāga-bhaya-krodhā. Man-mayā upāśritāḥ. These are three types of material conditionings, attachments. What is that? One is negligence of spiritual life. If you don't gather this knowledge from a guru, then you will, once upon a time I knew something, I was a little religious and I heard about it, etc., etc. But as I'm, very much involved in matter and materialistic thought, and I am, working as a scientist or whatever, and I'm so much involved in this thing, I don't think these things figure in my reality. In fact, they're not at all real because they don't subject themselves to my scrutiny, my observance. Unless in the material world, matter is studied by controlling it. When it comes under my control only, I can study it. I have to put it in a laboratory. I have to subject it to pressure, volume, temperatures, this, that, or conditions, and react it with some other element or some other chemical. And I have to study so many. I keep it under control and I study it and see how they behave. And then I can predict what I can do with it. And then I can tweak it, I can twiddle with it, and I can see the structure. I can change this. I have to control it. Then only I can study it. And then only I can gain knowledge of it. So that's the process mostly. But if I can't control something and bring it under my subservience, it's difficult for me to study it. it's difficult for me to get knowledge of it. So the conditioning we have is, it has to come under control, then I can study, research it, and then I can get knowledge of it. But something that is not coming under my control, how can I study it? It's not in my purview. It's not within the jurisdiction of my knowledgeable process. So there are some things that don't come under the purview of your materialistic mind, your intelligence, everything. They are beyond. So that you reject as being nothing to do with reality. So you live in your own bubble of a reality created by your own illusion. And you think everything is right. Then you neglect everything to do with the reality, spiritual life. Too absorbed in matter, too absorbed in materialistic thought, to even change a little bit of the paradigm. So negligence of spiritual life. I don't care. I mean, I don't know about it. I'm not bothered with it. I don't think it really figures in my life. I don't need it. Totally neglected, right? Vita means attachment. I mean, vita means free. Raga means attachment. So because of excessive attachment to material and matter stuff, you don't care about this. But one day you will die. You don't exist anymore. Your material body will go. All the material possessions you've got will go. Your name, fame, and glory will go. All your different attachments you have materially also will go. Everything will go. So raga. Then there is bhaya. Bhaya means I am suffering because of this form of mine. This individuality which I have accepted to be the body wrongly. But since my body gives me sickness, trouble of various, it grows old, it gets afflicted by sickness, birth, death, disease, all these things are painful on the body, right? So I am afraid that in my liberated state, this thing called liberation, I will have a body, which means I have to suffer again like this. So no body at all, no body, please. I want a situation where there is no body, impersonal, right? That's the type of thing that would be good, because in this lifetime, this body is giving me a lot of difficulty. This individuality I'm suffering from, this personality I'm suffering from, right? All these fears based on material experience make you feel that you should kill your personality. Only then you will be free and happy. But how do you kill that personality? Because you think that this personality is this body and this so-called character and swabhava that you have gained under the influence of material modes is the you. No, but when that dies, you continue to live. You're not the body, you're spirit in nature, and your spiritual nature and the individuality continues, right? So you'll be in for a very big surprise when you die, that only your body dies. You don't die. Like he said, Karjito Argosum, I continue to consciously exist as an individual spirit soul. You continue to exist, right? So Prabhupada is very brilliantly defeating that argument here. Then anger, krodha, frustration of not being able to enjoy what I want to enjoy, right? You become anger. That is mentioned in another shloka also. Dhyayato vishayan pumsaha sangasteshu pajayate sangat sanjayate kamaha kamakrodho vijayate krodha. Desire precedes anger. And that dissatisfied desire, unsatisfied desire is the root cause of anger. And desire is from contact with material forms and objects that are meant for enjoyment of the senses. When you want something and you're not able to get it, then you'll end up getting angry. And because of that anger, and then you'll end up getting disappointed, and then you become angry. And that anger leads to so much of frustration because you're not able to get what you want. And what will you do? You'll maybe go to a temple and pray for it. You may go to astrology and say what parihara I should do. You should go and try to influential people, try to get something, but nobody is able to help you because it's not written in your karma. Then you become very frustrated. Then you adopt another type of a philosophy. Then you adopt some other type of things that's mentioned here, we saw. See, being embarrassed by so many theories and by contradictions of various types of philosophical speculation, they become disgusted or angry and foolishly conclude that there is no supreme cause and that everything is ultimately void. Such people are in a diseased condition of life. Some people are too materially attached and therefore do not give attention to spiritual life. Some of them want to merge into the supreme spiritual cause, and some of them disbelieve in everything, being angry at all sorts of spiritual speculation out of hopelessness. This last class of men take to the shelter of some kind of intoxication, and their effective hallucinations are sometimes accepted as spiritual vision. Frustration, complete frustration. You jump into intoxication, jump into something. So all these are happening around us. You can see these characters around us. And it's already described in the Bhagavad-gita. Vīta-rāga-bhaya-krodhā, man-mayā upāśritāḥ. Giving up this, taking shelter of Krishna. If you simply recognize these things, take shelter of Krishna, then you will see that bahavo jñāna-tapasā, just like in the past, many people have this, you will also be able to achieve it. So that's why there are stories in the Bhagavatam, in the Puranas, in the Itihasas, about great personalities who achieved this wonderfully. And there are beautiful stories. They went through this process of ādo shadda tata sadhu sangata bhajana kriya anartha nivritti syat, got purified and achieved shelter of the Lord. So this is a process. This is an education. This is the way to do it. It's a science. It works. It's a science and it works. Just that you have to be a little patient. Get the right person to tutor and mentor and counsel you, guru, and follow it carefully. That's like we have in this world, if you want to become a doctor, there is a whole system. You get educated. You go admit yourself in the university. You go through the learning, the process, the knowledge. You clarify, you ask questions. You write exams, you do practicals, you do all sorts of things. And then finally, the university gives you, okay, now you're fit to be a doctor. Now you can start practicing. In the same way, Krishna is giving us this process, this whole system. And if we go through it, in the end, you will achieve the ultimate goal of life. And what is that goal of life? Sachit Ananda. The opposite of Sachit Ananda is, the meaning of Sachitananda is eternity, knowledge, and bliss. That's what we are made of. We are eternal. We are full of knowledge. And we are very happy. That's our original position. But now, Asat, Achit, Nirananda. You are in a Asat situation because you have accepted this body as a reality. In front of you, it crumbles, becomes obsolete. You can watch other people losing their body. Obsolescence taking over, right? And you sometimes are afraid and then you quickly forget it and then you think everything will be all right. Like an ostrich putting its head inside the mud, inside the sand. We think that just by shutting our eyes off, things are not going to happen. No, it's going to happen. We're going to die, right? So investment in this body makes life asat, unreal. Because his body is not permanent. Asat, achit. Achit means because you're invested in knowledge of matter only, dead matter. Your knowledge is not material knowledge, really knowledge. It's knowledge of one's jada vidya. The Upanishad calls it avidya. Vidyamscha avidyamscha yastat vedo vayagum sakhā. He says, the Upanishad says, the Upanishad says that in material life, you have to know both sides of knowledge. You have to know this knowledge of matter and where it will take you, and you have to know just real vidya. The Upanishad calls knowledge of matter avidya, nescience. But real knowledge is knowledge of the spirit. Who are you? Who is the supreme spirit? What's the connection? because matter is temporary. But we spend all of time existing and studying and living in the matter world, studying matter, making money out of matter, exploiting matter, and we think but we are being waylaid off the track. That's why it's not. Chit means you become dull, morose, complete. And the two things, asat and achit, you land up becoming unhappy because you're invested, although you're spirit soul, you're invested in the unreal, in the temporary, in matter. So the backlash of that is you become morose, you become dissatisfied, you become frustrated, you become so many things because you're a vibrant spirit soul with Satchitananda Vigraha, the opposite of what you're doing. So you will be very, very depressed. And there is no doubt when the World Health Organization is saying depression is a disease and it has increased so much, it's because of lack of spirituality. It's because of lack of understanding who you are, who God is, what this world is, what's the interconnections, and what I should do and what I should not do. Because of these things, you become completely occupied, right? So this shloka tells us there is proof that in the past people have done this and got out of it. And got out of it, right? So you must also do that. So you will see in the Bhagavatam wonderful stories of such personalities. Personalities who totally changed, who have been horrible in the past and changed to become wonderful personalities. In this day and age, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada has cured so many people by this science. They're having horrible habits and worst parts of the world, which is never exposed to this science. And he gave them this science, gave them this practice, encouraged them, and guided them to actually transform totally. And in history also, you have people who are, although they are born in good situations, have lost that opportunity also. You see, Puranas describe how Varaha lifted the earth from the Garbhodaka ocean because Hiranyaksha dropped it inside. He was a massive demon. And then the Lord took the form of Varaha and went inside the waters and brought it back. And at that time, Bhumi and Varaha had association, and from that association was born the great Bhauma. Bhauma means earth, Bhumi. But he became Asura. Although he is born to the Lord himself through Bhumi, he, by the association of Bana, was another great devotee of Lord Shiva, right? He became totally corrupted and spoiled himself. He became an Asura. Of course, he was killed by Krishna himself. That's why we, celebrate Diwali. So you can get spoiled by bad association, right? Similarly, you can get completely purified by good association. That's why we are seeking good association. Ado Sangha. Ado Shadda Tata Sadhu Sangha. We must take the association. Kuru Punyam Ahoratram. Smaranityam Anityatam. Chanakya Pandit said, please give up the association of people who are not helping you to spiritually upsell. Durjana Samsargam. Give it up. Bhajasadu Samagamam. Celebrate the association of sadhus who can actually teach you spiritual life, teach you bhagavad-gita, teach you Bhagavatam, teach you how to practice it, and gradually develop your faith in Krishna, and then totally free you from this, right? So that's a warning. We must try as much as possible to associate with such personalities. And in history, you will find that because of good association, so many people, pūtā mad-bhāvam, āgatāḥ. Association is very important. Getting the right person to guide you and associating with similar persons. That's why I said that this is a university. This is a college. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada started the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And that is a university in itself. It's a whole college in itself. If you analyze it very carefully, because the essence is education. The essence is knowledge of the reality, knowledge of the absolute. It's so exciting journey in terms of understanding what is real, who am I, the philosophy of it. You're not forced into anything. You can gradually learn, get convinced. There is no forcing anybody. So it's exciting journey, a self-discovery. You can go through that, and it is very practical. And Krishna is moving you step by step. Krishna is never forcing it. You'll be finished. Not like that. So gradually moving ahead and getting to know the reality is prescribed here. And Krishna is willing to stand by, educate you. He has got his agencies, his agents. And if you enroll and take admission into that. So I call International Society for Krishna Consciousness is not just an ashram, it's not just a temple, it's not just, it's a whole community of people who are very interested in learning and educating themselves in the real facts of life, those things which are not taught in the outside world. And here admission, you don't need to be highly qualified. There's no IQ test they'll do on you. It's just that you're interested is the greatest qualification. And every human being is very interested. This education is open to everybody. It's free. So Prabhupada started this institution. And you won't be checked for your IQ and all that. Our whole guarantee is that your IQ will gradually increase by coming inside and associating and learning. We believe in your potential to learn this. So it's a given. We don't have to measure your IQ because we're awakening spiritual knowledge, which you definitely have. Hidden material knowledge you may not have according to your karma. But that doesn't matter at all. Your desire to discover yourself is the qualification. No fee. No fee actually. No admission fee, no tuition fee. You just upāśritāḥ, Krishna is saying. Surrender yourself to the rules and the regulations and the instructions. Be willing. That is greater fee that you have to pay. It's easy to take out a pocket money or I can give. That's very easy. But if you actually want the fruit, you must be able to surrender. Surrender means all your, amazing, grandiose plans that you have about how you'll become successful in the world, materially, etc. Mostly you'll have to set that aside. Right? You have to actually be fully dedicated, interested in really understanding. Then you will see the journey will be wonderful. It's not at all like the universities and the education institutions that we know. This is real education. So Krishna is not about material. The gurus are not asking you anything material. In fact, they're asking you something much, much more. They're asking you to surrender. Because Krishna says, man-mayā bhava. And before that, he's saying, sarva-dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. If you surrender to me, I will give it to you. So the process is surrender. The fee is surrender. And the commodity you get will make you the richest person in existence. And don't worry about others who may also be as rich as you. It doesn't matter. There is enough rich people who can be accommodated in this domain. Everybody can be individually rich in bhakti and still can perform wonderfully. So the Bhagavatam illustrates so many such stories of success, right? So today, let's take this to heart that number one, this is a perfect science. This is real education. Let's get rid of these three types of diseases, that is negligence of spiritual life, fear of our personal identity, frustration and anger not achieved. These three things overwhelm you. let's get rid of that somehow by better association. In this way, embark on education, the real education of who are you, who is God, and what is the relationship with you. And that will become a reality. It's not that you just do your exam and write a PhD and keep quiet. It becomes a reality. It becomes a way of life, it becomes an experience, and you can enter into it. Given by Krishna. Om Tat Sat. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Any questions or comments? We'll be very happy to answer. Hare Krishna Maharaj, when a person is out of body after death, will you realize that he is not the body and he is the spirit soul? Not necessarily. He's out of the body doesn't mean he's out of the subtle body. He may be out of the gross body, and the subtle body still carries all these vasanas and desires and plans and everything. So it's mentioned that he will go into another gross body because he is still not purified himself. So Krishna is saying, vīta-rāga-bhaya-krodhā, man-mayā upāśritāḥ. Vita means giving up, being freed from, right? So becoming freed from that is when you can be totally free to realize that you're spirit soul. These subtle things hold you together. Cutting that off is what Krishna is talking about. Okay, right. Some thoughts? Oh, okay. Anything else? No. Right. Anybody else has a question or a hand raised here? By some chance, am I not seeing it?
Just one text message.
Fine. Thank you.
Just one text message.
Have a great day.
Nittai Gaura Haribo, Haribo, Haribo.